Morning, everybody. So we're going to run through a couple of instruments. So it might be a bit of a long video. And if you look on the right, you'll see the instruments we're going to run through. So if you haven't yet subscribed, please subscribe. And any questions, ask them in the comments below. And I'll do my best to respond or alternatively get a video out to make the answer more visible for you. Anyway, let's start with Euro USD. So Euro USD is very much ranging, not something that I'm really interested in right now. You can see we stuck between these two lines higher there at 125.20 and the low here at 121.89. So you can see how from the ichimoku perspective we are just hovering, going horizontal, and we're ranging. So if you really want to trade this, you'll be trading from the bottom to the top and from the top to the bottom of the range. But for me, there's nothing there. Let's look at the FTSE. So the UK FTSE, some interesting things happening here. We are top of the cloud. You can see here we've hit the top of the cloud here. We have broken through the 200 daily EMA. Okay, and this is quite a big level that we're at now. So just put a line in here quick. Okay, so there's the one level, and here's the other one. So you can see the previous low there, and here's the previous high. So we have a pretty strong resistance or support level zone here, and also the 200 EMA. So interestingly, that price has broken through here, and it's about to break through the cloud. Sorry, not price, Chico span. Okay, and we're about to break through the cloud. So Chico span doesn't have any resistance here. You can see that. So there's a good chance that we're going to continue with this move. I would expect to see some kind of a pullback off the cloud here. So for me, I'd be looking for any form of pullback. And I think on this one, we can actually just drill down to the 4 hour. And you can see how far Kijinsen and Tikinsen are from each other. So I'd prefer this to come back. Well, the jury's out to where, maybe a gap close somewhere in this area here between these two lines. And it would be nice to come down to Tikinsen, which would give us a nice entry for another long. So I'm watching this one with interest at the moment, and really want to see it come back a little bit so I can get in on this trade. So either back to either back to the 200 moving average, or just have a look on the daily, sort of Monday and Tuesday, and see what's going on. But there should be some kind of a sideways move or something like this here. Either a sideways move and then a little bit of a pullback, and then maybe a move to the upside. But we have had a crossover, which is bullish. We've got a breakthrough here, and we had a crossover on Tikinsen and Kijinsen here. Let's move on. France. Now, the French 40 is one-way traffic at the moment, and we have created a new high. So there was the previous high. Let's get the levels in. So we're above those levels, and the next level is this pin bar here, and then after that we're looking at this one here. We just look to the right. This one here is probably the most likely suspect where some profit taking is going to happen. So this move is strong though. I mean, this has been moving strongly up, so I reckon if we do get a pullback, it might only be a 1 bar, 2 bar pullback, and then for a continuation to the next level, and then obviously to the tops here. 4 hour. So you can see Tikinsen and Kijinsen are pointing up. Cloud is pointing up. We've had 100 and 200 EMA moving average crossover here. We've had the 50 crossover already, all pointing up. So, I mean, this is a really strong bull trend at the moment that we're in. Yeah, I think, there's a little flag building here as well. So let's just label it. So you can see there, and you can see there. So is this continuation or is it going to be a pullback? So a break of either side will give us direction. So for me, I think if we break above this bar here, I'll take a stab at a long, stop below the flag here. But if that is the case, then we've basically got this whole move here. So let's just look at what potential target could be here. From there to there. And let's move that up there. So we're looking at 5500, which puts us pretty much in just below, sort of there. Yeah. So we'll be just below the cloud on the top here. So you'll probably find that the actual target here is the top of the cloud, because there's quite a few pin bars and candles that are interacting with that level. So yeah, so break of that will give us quite a nice target to the upside. So I think that's another one to keep your eye on. Okay, moving on. Pound dollar. So this has had a bit of a sell-off, and you can see how we challenged the top of this pin bar here, and we immediately sold off. The question is, where are we going? And that's the next level, and then obviously the cloud, and then we have these tails here, and the moving averages. So from the moving averages perspective, I mean, you look at the 50, 100, and 200, we're still moving in an upward trend. And so from there to there, okay, so we've got quite a few touches there. Let's just say it's one touch, there's two touches, there's three touches, and this is the fourth touch. So I would assume more of the same. So a bounce from this area, and we are making new highs. So if you look here, so we had a high there, there's a new high, new high, new high, new high, created a higher low, there's a previous low, the higher low. So, and technically we are sort of on a higher low at the moment, but let's have a look at the 4 hour. Okay, so Keaton and Tigginson are still pointing down. The cloud is pointing down, so I mean we are still trending down. I would suspect that somewhere in this area we get some form of a bounce, and whether it's a bounce to the 200 or the cloud, or to the top of the cloud, we'll have to wait and see. But I think this push to the downside may find some support at this area here, and there's also a Brooks gap here. So right there, on top of this pin bar here, well, not a pin bar, this little range bar that formed here, top of the tail there, there's the breakout that hasn't been retested. And it lines up with the flat cloud here, and it'll be S2 daily. So yes, I think key thing for me here is to watch what's happening here. So it's quite a big zone to watch out for, but you're going to have to just keep it in your watch list and see what happens. So sort of this is my watch list that I watch, and pretty much the instruments that I trade the most on. So yeah, so that's something that I'm going to keep an eye on here. We'll see how this plays out. If it finds some support here, then definitely I'll take another stab at a move to the upside. Okay, let's just move on. The DAX. The DAX been a bit frustrating this last week because it hasn't really done much. Sort of just been falling off a little bit. But I suppose we need to look what the charts are telling us, and we are at a very, very strong level. So you can see the previous high. You can see the interaction there. You can see how we interacted here, there, We used it as support here. So it's quite a big level that we're at here. There's 12,610. And it also coincides with top of the cloud. So it's to be expected that this has happened. The question in my mind right now is, are we still within this channel? Okay, so are we still playing the channel? We have found support on the 200, and we've got the 200 and the 100 moving together. And with the DAX, I need the 50 there as well, but when the three of them group like that, it's normally a very good signal of a move about to happen. And whichever direction it breaks in is typically the direction that it'll continue for a while. So let's just drill down on this for the 4 hour. And you can see why I'm asking myself the question, have we broken this range or not? So Friday was a difficult one to take note of, because I doubt people will be holding over the weekend, especially not with the trade wars that are escalating at the moment. So there's a lot going on in the world at the moment. So I think it's one worth watching. I think if we start breaking up sort of, for me, above this area here, it'll give me confirmation that we're going to try and break take a stab at breaking this 610, this 12,600 area. So Kijinsen's going to play a role here to see if we can stay above it. And I think last thing I'll just miss on the daily here is, so we are on the 200, as I said, but Kijinsen's flattening out and Tekinsen's still pointing to the upside. So I'd like Tekinsen to catch up. So maybe we'll pause a little bit while Tekinsen catches up. But we have had a bullish crossover. And we had our bullish crossover of Tekinsen and Kijinsen there. And Chikuspan has broken through and it's got very little resistance here at the cloud. So it's setting up nicely for a move, but it could also just come back and test this area here. So until we get some decent direction on the daily above the cloud, for now it could just form a very wide range for us. So I think this channel is going to be key. We'll see what happens. If we can stay above Tekinsen on the daily, then we should be all right for another move to top of the channel and then back down and back up until we break top or bottom of this channel. Okay, let's look at the South African Aussie. So the Aussie has been pretty interesting, to say the least. We're getting 700-800 points, sometimes 1,000 or 2,000 point moves in a day. So trying to keep a stop loss of 150 points is a challenge. You've got to be in at the right levels, otherwise you permanently stopped out. So a couple of things here. So we're about to get a twist. We've had a bullish crossover, golden cross here. And Chikuspan is nowhere at the moment, still below price, below Tekinsen and Kijinsen. So you can see how we hit the top of the cloud here, and then we looked for the very first breakout retest, which was this bar here. And you can see how price hit it and then turned straight away. So we have found some support on the 200 EMA. Now I want to go back in the history here to show you something. And I remember this quite well because similar thing played out. If you look here, you see how we bounced off the bottom of the cloud, okay? And we had a crossover. But at that time, we didn't have a twist. Okay, so from there, where's the crossover? There's a crossover. Okay, so let's just look for 26 bars. 26, there's 26. So you can see at that time the cloud would have been still pretty wide open. Wouldn't have been a twist. Twist came quite a few bars later. So that's the only difference to the scenario. So if you look at Chikuspan, you'll see 26 bars back from there, because remember, checker span is 26 in the past, and so we want from that point there, 26 bars there. You can see we were sort of in the cloud. Okay, but we were below price, below Dickinson and Keynesian. So this could be a similar scenario playing out here. Bounced off the cloud, came back to the 200, and you see how we found the support at the 200 and then immediately started rallying. So this could be a similar setup playing here. And again, one that I'll be watching with pretty keen interest. I tend to trade this every day. And you can see how the 4-hour 200 was also playing a major role yesterday. And again, being Friday, it's kind of a price action that you expect. Nobody's really looking to buy and hold for the weekend. Okay, gold. Let's just get to the daily. So we have this trend here. So you can see way back in December 2016. Then we have 10th of July 2017. Then we managed to break it, and then we started respecting it again. You can see how we're respecting it here. Now, you know, we are ranging pretty much on this, so I keep looking to see if we can get something, but there's never really anything here that interests me, apart from touching the bottom here and moving to the top. So we are still trending up, but you know, the question is, do we have a left shoulder, head, right shoulder? So do we have an inverse head and shoulders here? Okay, it's certainly looking that way. The sell-off on Friday, again, I mean, the world's in turmoil at the moment. You would have expected that people would be stocking up on gold, but it's not to be the case. So, ichimoku perspective, we back on Keynesian here and on the cloud. There's nothing really to write home about. I think if we break above this level here convincingly with a 4-hour or daily close, then there'll be something on for some more upside. But right now where we are, I think we may find some support on the 200 here, or we may just come and challenge these bars, sort of that one, that one, that one. There's nothing really concrete for me to go on here. So, I mean, if you're trading this, you're obviously trading the range and you're in and out as often as possible. So for me, I think I'll just keep watching this to see what happens. If we hit this trend line and the trend holds, then maybe look for a move to, so if we can get down to this area, then maybe look for another move back there, 1.8%. But yeah, that's gold. S&P 500. Now, S&P 500, classic. You can see how the bottom of this pin bar was challenged. Let's just put that line in. So you can see how that breakout there was challenged. 2 days in a row, and then started moving off. We're also at the top of the cloud. And you would have thought that with the cloud being so thin, we may have broken through with ease, but these Brooks gaps are so critical to price action. And you can see how we sold off. So we sold off sort of back to can you see how the tails interact with this support line? There, a little bit there, yeah, over there, all these bars hitting it, and then we hit it again now. So we've been using it as resistance for quite a while, and we've now used it as support. So the warning bells for me here is, was that a wedge? Okay. So let's just do this. So was that a wedge like that? Or Was it a channel that broke? There's another one. So, the question here really is, are we going to see a lot more of a sell-off back down to this area? Or is this just consolidating for another push-up? So for me, I'll be looking at the 4 hour here. So that closing 4 hours was a pretty good one. There is a gap here. So there's a daily gap at the bottom here, which we didn't quite close it. So that gap is still open. And we've had a bearish crossover here. What's it? A death cross, bearish cross here. We've hit price. We may be breaking through. We've broken through the 200. So there may still be some further selling to come, or we may be finding some support here. So for me, I think the best way that I'm going to be looking at this is as follows. I'm looking for a break above there. If we need a break above there, then that's pretty good. But this is the real worry for me. On the weekly, you can see how this weekly bar is closed. We bounced off Kijinson, and we also closed below Tekinson, and that's a crossover. So if that is a rejection bar, and we start, let's just put a little line in there. Okay, I'll come back to the 4 hour. So that's the weekly. This is the weekly low. Okay, so if we start breaking below here, we hit the cloud, and we'll find resistance. We may do this, and then we could push through. But you can see how everything is starting to point to the downside on the 4 hour. So yeah, I think there may very well be a wedge in play here. So either a wedge or a channel break to the downside. I'll be watching this with interest, and for me, a long entry here, but it may very well be short-lived, because we'll find support there. We'll find resistance here, right on Tekinson, which would be another area for a short. So yeah, I think there's a lot happening in the US, and a lot of it is to do with the trade war. Okay, let's look at oil quick. So US crude. Oh, I don't have data here. Okay, let's just drill down to the 4 hour. I'll fix that later. So oil has been pretty choppy, turvy, topsy-turvy, choppy, whichever way you want to put it. But if you look here, we've rallied, come off, more than likely to a Fibonacci extension. So if we just go to there, 50%, 60%, so 61.8. Before the 76, before 76.4 and 61.8, we got price to there before rallying up and creating a new high, and coming off, creating a new high. So by the looks of things, probably more of the same. But the one worrying factor is that we are now ranging, and Kijinson is flat, and we're below Tekinson. So we could range a bit, fall off back to this area before another move up. But at this stage, the trend is up. So you'd be looking for maybe a bounce off this line, see if that holds. I don't see another one there. So looking for an entry, possibly there. I have to see what happens on Friday, on Monday. So possibly another retest of that level. But there are quite a few Brooks gaps here, so we could fall off right the way back to there on the close. So that's the last one open, and it's also the previous breakout. So there's a previous high, and there's another high there, and there's another high. So those are the three levels that I'll be watching. So this one first, then we watch what happens here, and we watch what happens here. Let's get rid of that. So yeah, so I think continuation a little bit. Let's just put some trend lines on this. Okay, this could be a flag. Okay, could be a flag. So a break above this trend line gives us more upside, and the upside is really going to be quite juicy actually. Take us to 71.39. So we have, let's take it from there. We have a potential for a 302 pip trade on oil. So yes, I think for me, just waiting to see what happens. A break below here is going to challenge these areas at the bottom, and a break above this little range that's formed is going to send us up. Okay, I'm just going to watch on Monday what happens with this. US Russell. So US Russell is one that tends to, let's reduce this. It tends to react before the other US markets do. So if you look at the daily on the US Russell, you can see how we've had a crossover here, but that is a bearish crossover. Okay, so if it was that kind of crossover with Dickinson above Keeganson pointing up, then we'd have a bullish crossover, but we have a bearish crossover here. Ticker span is nowhere, in the middle of nowhere, and we have the 200 EMA here, quite far away. So looking like it's just a very broad range, and the worrying factor here is we have had from a technical point of view, a high, a lower high, and another lower high. So let's just take it from there. So there's the trend, and then so if I do that, you can see we have a bit of a triangle forming here. So not something that I want to trade right now. It's looking a little bit messy. We'll see what happens when it gets down back to this level. If it finds some support here, there might be a trade back to this trend line. Otherwise, we're looking for something to come all the way back down here. NASDAQ. So NASDAQ, again, we found support there. We found resistance, sorry. So you can see we challenged that pin bar. We've challenged those pin bars there. And we're now at Keeganson and Dickinson. So if we get a bearish crossover here on the daily, then I'll be very much inclined to look for more downside. So it all depends what Trump does this weekend. And there's a lot of talk about more trade tariffs coming through. And the trade tariffs that he's going to have to put in place are going to have to target things like electronics and clothing and things like that. So, which is just going to affect the consumer. And I think with the privacy wars going on and all these social media sites that are changing their privacy laws or their rules at the moment, I think there's something brewing within the NASDAQ sector. And obviously that's just going to drag the rest of the US markets down. And similar picture to the S&P is we have a wedge. And this right now is a lower high. And the other thing to us to take cognizance of as well is that was a 61.8 that it hit and bounced. So, yeah, I think for me right now, there's more downside coming on the US markets. We have found some support here, but the question is, we'll bounce a little bit, and do we find a resistance at this level before breaking back down into the cloud, and then up, and then down, and then up. So that's kind of the way I'm seeing this. But yeah, so for the US markets, for me, it's really get in at the levels. So this is a level, it's a good area to go long, trade the long, but watch out for every single tail is going to give you resistance. So be prepared to take profit at each tail. Okay, the last one, Wall Street. And so Wall Street, during the week, I've been pointing out this wedge and falling. And if you take the high of that bar and the high of that bar and the high of that bar, that gives you a pretty good trend line. And I'd copy it and I put it down here. You can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bars that touch it. So we have bounced off the cloud. We have got a bullish crossover here, but everything to me is still pointing to the downside. And if we just do that, so this is the only thing that may offer some support for us. So we've broken this trend line, and maybe pull back to this trend line, back to the cloud, and then see what happens around there. But I think it's going to take a lot of effort for the US markets to get going. And I think for this is really, again, trade on the 4-hour and take profit often. So you can see, you can see how we get to, we've had a bearish crossover, we've broken through price here, and we found support on the cloud. If we come back on the 4-hour and we start finding resistance here and start turning down again, it's short again, and keep running the short until we get to the bottom of this trend line here. We break back below this trend line and we break this, which means we'll break the cloud, which means more bearish action to come, and then you start looking at these lows. So I think all three of the US markets, the S&P, the NASDAQ, and Wall Street, is pretty much, for me, is just to take off the levels. So wherever there's a level, I will take the trade and just trade it up to the next level and get out. So it is so topsy-turvy at the moment that it's just pointless trying to get in for a long-term trend on this market at the moment. European markets look different, and they really look like they're starting to leave the US markets behind and do their own thing. Anyway, guys, that's my weekly review. I'll put one out every week on these instruments. And if there's an instrument that I'm missing that a lot of you are trading, just let me know and I'll add it to the list. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.